let's get back to the beach. In the city of San Diego, the waterfront area is home to commercial and pleasure boats, as well as Navy ships and a maritime museum. Mission Bay offers still more water sports activities, but without the waves of the open ocean. We found that all along the coastal areas, from Santa Barbara to San Diego, the same sort of beach and surfing culture that has drawn so many folks for so many decades is indeed still alive and well. These days, things are busier and more crowded than back when it all started. But there's still plenty of sand, surf, and sun for everyone to enjoy.
But the sad part about everything is that now it's so dangerous because what is in the water today? I've been Wyland, my very, very dear friend, who has painted 100 whaling walls. Wyland and I used to surf together. In fact, he started his first art shop down here in Laguna, and he introduced me to Sam, the Sea Shepherd, the gentleman who's been arrested half a dozen times because he's always trying to protect the creatures of the ocean. I've been on his vessel. And then Jacques Cousteau, met him, and I can remember back in the 60s, the government used to say you could eat the fish that was contaminated like 10,000 parts per million or something like that with the contaminations that they have. Well, at that time, it was over 50,000 parts per million. And Jacques Cousteau was the one who proved it. He took samples from all these creatures in the ocean, all over the world, to find out how much poisoning, mercury poisoning, and things like that. I mean, we're dumping batteries, we're dumping swill, we're dumping all this stuff polluting. You know, you go out 12 miles out and they just dumping everything out in the ocean. Mickey Dora, Fane, all those guys, we'd all be there together. Butch Van Arsdale, who was one of the first to surf the pipeline in Hawaii. I worked with the Duke of Hanamoku, the father of surfing. I was introduced to him by Moroni Medeiros in Hawaii, who brought the first water polo to California. Very interesting. My life has been so full of wonderful surfers because to me it was one of the greatest forms of health that you could have. I used to be out there, and no matter how cold I was, I'd take the water, throw it up in the air, you know, and let it hit me in the face, and I'd say, "Oh Lord, thank you for allowing me to sit out here. The wackos are going to work in the morning, being responsible, but I'm surfing, having a great time." And, to experience is to know is to understand is to tolerate is to have peace, third eye.
Throughout our trip along the Southern California coast, our Honda Pilot was a great companion, and its tight turning circle and rear view camera and parking sensor systems were all very handy in the sometimes crowded streets and parking lots. On the more open stretches of roads, we were able to enjoy the solid handling and good ride offered in the Honda. No matter what you're driving, a trip along the Pacific Coast Highway will provide great scenery, and you just might become a beach boy or beach girl. We'll be right back. In our last episode, we began our journey from Santa Barbara to San Diego with our Honda Pilot. We enjoyed some great scenery and learned a bit about surfing history and its importance in the commerce of the area. We also visited a surfing school in Laguna Beach, passing on the knowledge of wave riding to a new generation. Today we'll continue our trip south, and once again Dick Dale, the king of the surf guitar, will join us with some of his commentary on fun times at the beach. Surf's up! Surfboards themselves come in a variety of sizes and shapes, and can certainly be true works of art, as well as marvels of craftsmanship and engineering. Guy Takayama, surfer, designer, board shaper, and owner of GT Surf Designs, shared a bit of his work with us.
We got Guy over here, Guy Takayama, and we're here, and wanted to talk with him about kind of the evolution of shaping boards and kind of what the old school is according to what's happening today. Give us a little fill-in on this, Guy?
Yeah, well, looking at this piece of wood here, this is what the core of a surfboard used to be. This is balsa redwood, and the redwood are the stringers, and that's the strength of the core of the board here. Back then, this is all they used to use until the very early 60s, even the late 50s, when foam made its appearance in the surfboard industry. So this is what you see here as a nostalgic 70s style, old school big wave board, call it a gun. And today, this is what we're using now, which is a foam core, very light. This thing will probably glass out at maybe 45 pounds. This one will glass out probably 12 pounds. So big difference in weight. You have a polyester foam here. You got a red cedar stringer, and this particular shape is a kind of a hybrid fish from the 70s. Big fish tail. You probably remember these. And pull the nose in a bit. Just modernize it, double barrel concave, what have you. But just makes it a lot easier for today's athletes and today's surfers, as opposed to riding something that really didn't ride real well back then.
And for California beaches, since the waves are not as big as in Hawaii, what particular type of board works best for out there? Is it the glass is thinner or thicker, or what
not
creates
necessarily. Well, you don't want to really go. It depends on the shape. Bottom line, where are you surfing? Is it more conducive to short boards, beach break, or a longboard break like Santa Fe, nice healing waves over a rock reef? You know, something like this is primarily used for 20-foot waves. This thing is going to drop you in on that and keep you alive there.
Okay. And what about the industry of epoxy boards? What's your feeling on that?
Okay, well, I don't care too much for the pop-out epoxy boards. It's a great board for a beginner. They're durable, and they're easy to paddle. They're very lightweight, so that's where that meets its market. As far as performance-wise, my feeling is they don't perform as well as a polyester handshake board. Just like anything, you know, the custom board, you don't see any pros surfing on any epoxies, right? Unless they're paid very well.
It's more like a cookie cutter type.
Yeah, right, and it has its place, and they've done well with it. You know, basically that came from the windsurfing industry back in the 70s.
Hobie Alta. a genius. And he shaped the board for me. And I remember my skeg was a redwood skeg, glassed in, and it had a couple of white lines going through it, like it looked like it was almost like ivory, but it wasn't. It was like some kind of a plastic, I guess. But he put my name, DD, in my redwood skeg, interlocking each other in the white as if it was white ivory. It was beautiful, and then I had stringers on it, and that's the board that I used on the cover when John Stevenson, the world-renowned photographer for surfing, and took the first picture that we used for actual commercial publication for my first Surfer's Choice album.
We'll be right back with more from the beach after this. Travel and Truck is brought to you by Sport Truck Connection Television, with all the latest on today's light trucks, by the great road music available at lazysob.com, by Husky Liners, the next step in automotive protection, by Route 66. Continuing southward, near President Nixon's former vacation home in San Clemente and the Marine base at Camp Pendleton, an area known as Trestles provides what may be some of the best surfing along the entire coast. Surfers come to the lower Trestles area from far and wide to surf the perfection that is simply known as lowers. Some of the most dramatic professional surfing events, boasting some of the largest purses up for grabs, have been held here, and it's the only surf spot on the North American continent to host an ASP-sanctioned World Championship Tour surfing event. For those who are into a more laid-back, family-style day at the beach, San Onofre is the place for you. Think surfers riding longboards, gracefully cruising down the line on open-faced waves, guys, girls, groms, and grandparents hanging out on the beach and in the water, and ukuleles and campfire songs greeting the sunset. This type of scene has been commonplace at San Onofre since the early 1930s. Located just south of Trestles and almost directly in front of the San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station, San Onofre is a California-run state park that provides a dirt parking lot area, bathrooms, showers, and on-duty lifeguards. It also provides some of the best waves in Orange County for longboard surfing. Though surfers can ride the slow, gentle rollers on any type of surf craft, boards in the 9-foot-plus range are the ones most commonly found here. These types of boards provide stability as well as the glide unparalleled by shorter equipment. Old Man's, the main break at San Onofre, can easily be found thanks to the iconic palm frond roof picnic area reminiscent of Oahu's Waikiki. A plethora of rideable peaks, all breaking over cobblestone rocks, can be found up and down the beach, accommodating surfers of all skill levels. If you love the beach and the surfing lifestyle, you'll have a great time at San Onofre.
San Onofre was a beautiful place, and a group of people, and everybody was just, in those days, you know, you could leave your surfboard on the beach and nobody would steal it. That was so beautiful. And I created a club called Mashallah, meaning the Lord is with you. It was the handshake with the Olympic rings together and a surfboard going through the middle. So that meaning anybody who wore that jacket, in fact it was written in Egyptian on the back, so only people who belonged to that organization knew what it meant. Well, that meant if you went down to Laguna for the first time and somebody was sitting at the beach if you had your wallet or something like that, you knew exactly that you could give them your wallet, and they would keep that wallet for you until you came out of the water. That you could only be that kind of a good soul inside. And it was just like a group of sports car drivers when people had MGs and things like that, Austin Healey's. They always waved to each other. So we created this surfing or a club like this. And the trouble in those days were the clans of people, the surfers that were in places, they kind of said, this is my place, you know. And so if they didn't know you, I mean, guys would be, I got 18 stitches in my skull here down when I was surfing down in wind and sea. And I was coming off a wave, and this guy cut right out with a big longboard, cut right at, just bam, kicked out on his board, and got me here, and I went down, and they saw it happening before it was going to happen, and the lifeguards were incredible. They paddled out. I can remember looking up, seeing the light coming through the water, and a hand coming down and grabbing me by my hair and pulling me up, and my whole top of my skull was over. So they stitched me up, and I was in the water the next day. I looked like Frankenstein. Because of the rocks on the bottom, the smooth, you could always tell. We used to go snorkeling to check the bottom to see where the rocks were, the rounded rocks, because you always seemed to have a great rolling break, you know, and it was always smooth. So I took my Hobie board, and I had a 1944 Woody that I paid $200 for. I sold it later on because I was always dropping the U-joint in it for $400. And now today, as we speak, they sell for $100,000, if I only knew then. So we used to stick the boards in the back of the Woody, go down the coast highway, and we'd get asphyxiated because the fumes from the pipe of the Woody would go back inside while we were driving. We found a place going down the coast highway, and we climbed down these rocks. We saw these beautiful lines coming in. They were beautiful, smooth like glass, because we just love that glassy stuff in the morning. And I said, there's only two of us. This is the only place, there's only two of us. And what happened was, I said, how are we going to remember this place? You know, we don't want to tell anybody about it. And so I saw a sign on the side of the road, and it was a 0. And that's where you start measuring the miles in your car. So I called it mile 0. And I had put it on the back of my album. You know, my favorite surfing spot is mile 0. And everybody kept on going, where is this mile 0? What is this mile 0? Nobody knew what it was, and then finally somebody figured it out, and before you know it, population came.
We'll be right back with more after this.